Welcome to my living room, to my music room on this dull, rainy day in April. And I have a real treat for you today. I'm very, very excited. You're used to hearing me coach young musicians, and I do that a great deal. But what's happening today is something quite different. I have two great musicians with me, two colleagues who are not students, but who are finished artists. And they gave a concert a couple of weeks ago, which I couldn't go to because I wasn't allowed in, because they had rules about it, and I really wanted to go to that concert, but I couldn't persuade them to let me in. So I brought Mohammed to the mountain, or is it mountain to the Mohammed? I never know which way around it is, and invited them here to be with you. And let me tell you about who they are. This is Rasa Witkeskauti. It's a very difficult name, Witkeskauti, right? And this is, I misled you because I said she was Polish. I just wasn't thinking. Nobody with a Polish could have that name. She's Lithuanian. And she is, first and foremost in my mind, the pianist, the resident pianist of the Boston Philharmonic Orchestra. And therefore, if you heard the Petrushka a couple of years ago, a fantastic performance, Rasa was the pianist in that, great, and it was amazing. And the recording of it is just unbelievable, really fabulous. Rasa is a major pianist. She's won international competitions. She's a soloist. In fact, she has a new recording out. She just gave me of the Mozart 20th Piano Concerto and the Beethoven 3rd Piano Concerto, which she just did during, as she said, it was her COVID project. Imagine putting out a recording like that with an orchestra in Europe, all during the COVID. So that's Rasa. The other person here is a very special friend. Sebastian Beverston came into my life at the age of 14. He joined the youth orchestra at NEC when I was the conductor, and was a very striking presence in that orchestra, I tell you, at the age of 14. We went on tour to China, you remember? We played all over China. We gave one concert in which he played the Dvorak cello concerto in Chongqing, I think was the name. Chongqing. 7,000 people showed up, and they said it was a small audience. You remember, the place was just swarming with people. Anyway, so Sebastian has become a major figure in the music environment here in Boston, known to everybody. And when I heard that he was giving this concert at Brookhaven, I said, maybe they could come and be with us here today to play one of the movements. We thought of doing the slow movement of the Brahms, not to have a lesson. They're beyond that. This is not a student anymore. It used to be, but it isn't anymore. This is a colleague I deeply respect, and a level of playing. Some of you may have heard the Kodály last finale of the Kodály solo sonata, which I sent out to you. And when I heard it, I was completely blown away by it. I mean, it's a level of artistry and playing that is absolutely at the top level. So it isn't as if there's, or at least one might ask this question, is there anything to learn at this stage of life? Normally, people in their 30s do not take lessons. That's not what they do. But it may be very interesting to share a performance. I have no idea what it's going to be. I'd be fascinated to know what they've come up with. And then we can have a conversation and see where it goes, right? And as I say, we're always open to learn, whether we're 82 or in our 30s, it's the same thing. Because we can never be as great as the music we play, because it's always way beyond what we can bring to it. So we're striving all the time to get closer and closer and closer to what we believe the composer intended, and that's what we're here to do. So they're going to play the slow movement of the Brahms F major cello sonata, and I'm going to sit and listen and not say a word. Well, if you didn't know that piece, you must surely be thinking it's one of the most beautiful pieces of music you've ever heard. And it is exquisitely beautiful. So here's the interesting thing. I could enjoy that as a friend and as a colleague and as a music lover, and I did. And I have another hat, another role, another way of listening to music, which is what did the composer say and what did he want? And that's the real question here. And although you have mesmerizing ability to hold an audience, I'm sure nobody in the group listening would have been distracted at a single moment. That's unfortunately not something we can do about. But the question is, if Brahms had been here, what would he say to you? And I'm going to point out two things that he might say to you, which is, my dear friends, I wrote Adagio affettuoso. Right? Adagio affettuoso, which means full of love, full of deep feelings of love. Right? And that is not coming over in the playing. What's coming over is serenity, almost a religious awe, but not real Brahmsian affettuoso. So that's number one. The other thing is that he wrote it in 2 and you're playing it in 4. Now, I tested this out. I'd like to make sure that everybody is coming along with me in this. This has to do with toes, the toes in the shoes. So while you're listening, and you're going to play the opening, I want you to notice how many beats your toes make. In other words, what do they do when they're playing? Would you just try the very opening? So this is what we're hearing, right? And just do it one more time. I want to make absolutely sure that everybody understands exactly what's happening here. So you do one more time, and I'll help this time. Your toes, if they're moving, are going 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. Now, it's beautiful. If you want to convey reverence, it's perfect. If you want to convey affection, it won't do, because the blood doesn't churn when it's in 4, and that's why Brahms wrote it in 2. Now, as you went along, you realized you couldn't play the whole thing at the same tempo, and so you moved the tempo along. That's a very common thing for musicians to do. When music gets excited, they move it along, and then you have the problem that you have to somehow come back. And that was very interesting what you did. So let's just show the place where you move it along, because there was no way you could keep that slow tempo. Let's just try it, actually, just so you know what it's like. Rasa do dee da 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 dee da 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 dee da. You know what I mean? Yes. Dee da dee da 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 dee da 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 dee da dee da dee da dee ba dee ba. And of course you can't do it. No musician would do that. No musician would. It would be impossible, right? So what you did, because you're good musicians, you moved it. And he doesn't say move it, but you say, but the music gets excited, I should move it, which is reasonable. Most people do that. It's called tempo modification. And in the Romantic style, it's understood that tempo modification is part of what we do as musicians. We get excited, we move faster, or you want to get a calm atmosphere, you move it slower. And in some composers, it works perfectly. However, Brahms is a more serious composer. He is a composer of structure, he's a classical composer, and so I really question whether he would do that. Now, in order to do it, you have to find a place to come back, and let me show you what you did, okay? So, do from that very place. Slower here. Okay, you naturally said, I'm going to play this slower because it's more like the beginning. Let's just go on and play it at the same tempo. So do from right on there, the D flat, at the same tempo, because he, right? That's the place you suddenly went back to the old tempo. And doesn't it feel amazing to play this in two? Now you're in two. It's a completely different feeling. Now the question is, can we make the opening convincing in two? Now I want to introduce, this is an idea which I want to present to you, not only to you, but to the people who are listening. Music can either be played metronomically, or it can be played freely. If it's played freely, we can pull the time at certain moments in order to create a feeling of expansion and then get back into the tempo. So this is a perfect example where the very first note of the piece is actually an end of the previous music that happened before the piece started. Do you understand how that is? So just do from bim bum 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 from the high climax, from the F sharp, the high F sharp. Do you know where? It's yeah, dee da dee da. Yeah, here, there. Yeah, right, exactly from there. Right, so. Bum dee da bum dee da dee da. Oh yes, and that E sharp, F sharp is so beautiful. You want to take a little time. Isn't that fascinating? So that's the recapitulation. That's where it comes back to the beginning. So the way to think of the beginning is as if that whole ritardando passage leads into it, even though the piece hasn't started yet. So let's try again from the beginning. And imagine dim, bim, bim, bum, bim, bim, bum. And incidentally, it means that you can really play in two. Is that an amazing feeling? Because the piano is designed to play, just play that passage, just so they just go back to the same passage we just played. No, dum da dee, yeah. Yeah, two da dee, beat yeah. A pianist can't play slower than that, right? That's as slow as, that's an adagio in two. Isn't that an amazing feeling? So now go from the beginning. And if you can get a feeling of, before you start, make a ritardando in your mind. Dum bi da da ti da da ti da now. Dum bim bum boy bi da ti da. And then to there, and then to there, and then to. So Sebastian, now that's affettuoso. Particularly when you come in, the piano plays, do from here, first time, second time, third time, I love you. Isn't that beautiful? And that's the way to do the opening. That's the way to do. And that's the secret, because now the pianist is happy, Brahms is happy, and the audience is happy, which is all you can do in life. Right? But you have to think about, how can a pianist play that in four, slow adagio, however effective it may be. Brahms knew what he was doing. Okay? And you feel it. I can feel it, the way you're playing it. So I can't play the cello anymore, but if you just do the opening, if you feel the very first, and then to the, you see the her E sharp, isn't that great? Her E sharp before tali. Do one more time. So this is so the first F sharp is an end. You understand? It's an end. It's the end of the music that happened before the piece began. So he's and then with love. This is the beauty. This is the beauty. When you have a note like that, double sharp, you can play it as long as you want. Isn't that amazing? And you can take a whole bow and she'll wait for you because she feels it too. So do from the F sharp. This is now heavenly. Now is affettuoso. Now we understand. And it's all in two. And there isn't one person back there with their toes going in four. Not one person, I promise you. They're all going, if they're going at all, they're going in two. And some of them may be even going in one, their toes in one. Wouldn't that be wonderful? Could you just try them after the C sharp where it begins? And if you could just look here, how he's written this so beautifully. It's so incredible. Look at this, the slur, the long, look at that slur. That's one idea, one gesture, one impulse. Do from there, from where the cello has it. Say one thing, a little message from Brahms. He wrote espressivo, he wrote piano, which is not pianissimo, and he wrote espressivo. And when he wrote espressivo, he means something special. He means, because everything in Brahms is espressivo, everything. But when he writes espressivo, it's more vibrato, more warmth, more richness, more bow, more love, so that everybody in the audience goes, not But, do you see the difference? I mean, we don't want to be awed, we want to be ravished. You understand? So just do right from there. Piano espressivo. Yes. Yeah, let me just be very mechanical. You're not waiting for her last 16th note, right? Because look how she plays. She plays in 2. Finish. Do you see? So beautiful once again. Now we're getting. That's beautiful. And then to yes. Good, bravo. And I have one thing to say to you as a friend, as a former teacher: don't hold back. Because for what? What are you going to hold back for? I mean, we had these conversations when you were 15 and 16, and you have become a great cellist and a great musician. I always feel there's more there, more love, more warmth. And you are great, and all you need to do is put on another 150 pounds to be Brahms. Brahms was huge, huge. And he played the piano and he filled the room with sound. Should we try? Can we go from there? Or somewhere? Yeah. And you see how this is all in 2. And oh, beautiful. That's in 2, even in 1. It's not pianissimo. Could you do pianissimo? Can you play even softer? I'm sure you can play softer. Yes. That's it. Beautiful. Singing, sigh. Now, when you played it before, you moved here because it was too slow. You knew it was too slow, right? Remember? Now you don't have to move it, but what you can do is be much freer because it's a recitative. So she's the orchestra accompaniment and you're the baritone, and some great drama has happened to you from the after. That's enormous. It can't be enough. Right? Try from there. Oh, yes. Can you allow her to play like a recitative? I'm going to conduct like an orchestra. You do. I wanted that one, the last one later, right? Really free like a recitative. You see, to me, you've become a different cellist, right? I mean, that's the way to play. With all your heart, saying, listen to me. This is so important. This is so great. Please listen. Not, I'm playing beautifully. I hope you're listening because I know you want to go and do your laundry, but it's just, please listen. No, you can't do that because they'll go to do the laundry. You know the story of the ancient mariner. Do you know that story? Oh, it's fantastic. This is a great moment. Coleridge wrote a great poem called The Ancient Mariner, and the man is going to his brother's wedding. He's the best man at his brother's wedding. And he's stopped by an old man in the street saying, "Listen to my story, old sailor. Listen to my story." He said, "I don't have time to listen to your story. I've got to go to the wedding. I'm the best man. Listen to the bassoon is already tuning up. Listen to my story," he said. And this poor man has to stand and listen to the story, 650 lines. And he misses the wedding. But he heard the story. We're the ancient mariner. We have to hold the attention of everybody. Not the music lovers, the people who don't know what music is about. Right? That's what you were just doing. That, oh, wow. And then she is so stunned by it, she delays her chords. Right? Do once again. Oh, and a little bit softer because it's an orchestra. But there's a great timing. Once again. And then to it, and then to totally different expression that is, because it's in two. Isn't that amazing? And you can be as free as you want. And I would suggest the warmest sound on the piano that you can make. See, let's just do that passage one more time, because for one of the things, it's one of my favorite moments in all of Western music, no less. And it comes out of that recitative. It's like Don Giovanni. And now things go in threes. Da dee da dum. 2 da dee da dum. And the third one, tie. The third, I would take an extra bow on the. Wouldn't you do that? I think you do one more time, and make it like a great romantic opera, like Verdi or Don Giovanni. Try. Yeah, I wonder whether there can be more expectation in the sound. Where's it going? What's going to happen? If it's too much, you don't have anywhere to go. And you might raise your eyebrows. Telling a story. First time, second time, now ready. First time, second time, third time. Now more. Careful, because you do the phrase and she finishes it. You do da da dee da. How can she follow that? Yes. All right, you have to hand it to her. But that was great. I mean, now we all, and I suspect even through these machines, I suspect people were feeling it deep in their heart. And that you're doing. Right? That's our job, is to unlock the emotional resources of the people we play for. That's our job, to unlock the emotional resources. Of course, if people are older and they've experienced more, they have more resources. If it's a little kid who's never experienced anything, you know, my great teacher, Casado, he said, you cannot play great music until your heart has been broken. And that's true of the audience too. If they haven't had a broken heart, if they haven't lost something that they treasure, how can they feel this music? But if they have that resource to give you as a gift, your job is to pull it out. It's a relationship between you and the audience. And when you play, it's not about you. It's not about you. It's about them. And it's about how you can connect and use all your gifts of persuasion and involvement and engagement and love to bring them closer to you. And that's why you learn to play the cello the way you play it. You get that? That's what all that work was for them. Not to show off how wonderfully you play, because that's actually great up to a point, but it's pretty boring after a while. But this can never be boring. What you were both doing, never. And please play it at my funeral, you know, and just... All right, that was so great. So should we do that? Yeah, exactly. Now, you play it as if you're beginning. Look, if I do this, I want to come out of the... Yes! There we go. Perfect. Let me just stop. Does anybody think this is in 4? Is anybody tempted to go da 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 da? No, it's not possible. It's not possible. You got it? So whatever imagination and lovely idea you came up with, as long as you're not following Brahms's instructions, you're not doing your job. Is that right? So do it again and make everything, and Brahms makes it so clear with these big slurs over 2 bars. Here we go. Yeah, be careful. It has to be reproducible. Don't be too musical, otherwise what can she do? But yes. Jawohl, that's it. Here it is, 2. Angry, 2. With love. Bravo, that's great, taking that much time. Can I suggest, Russ, so that you play it even more legato. So at the moment, bom, bing, dong, ding, dong, ding, dong, ding, dong, you don't want to hear that. It's like violins in the orchestra playing like that. And if you do that, his sound will be more beautiful. So can we just try from that very place? And oh my God, when you get to that note, I want you to cry. I want you to cry. I want you to see this photograph. I keep it close by. This is my teacher, Casido. Can you see? I don't know if he's playing the Brahms F major slow movement, but he could be. I don't know if they can see that. But every part of his body, everything is, and when he gets that, and I feel your ease at the cello, your brilliance, your virtuosity is your worst enemy, because you don't struggle. You're trying to struggle. Great, terrific, good. And you think of some ghastly thing like, that woman who got away. Great, thank goodness. So I had something to be upset about. so can we try very, very legato and always in two. Yeah, rasa, still more, effervescent in the right hand. So almost so we don't notice it. Because it's a melody. So I'm sorry. Once again. There's a yes, beautiful. Yes. Now espressivo. Yeah. Can I remind you, the Brahms was 280 pounds. Right, dolce, yes, but not soft. Did you play that in the piano? Listen. How can anything be more beautiful than that? And if she weighed 100 pounds more, it would be even better. Just try. Look, when I say that, of course I don't mean it. You understand? What I mean is, if you imagine weight, if you feel expansiveness, you don't have to be heavy. You have to think heavy. Right? And so every note is sung just to heavily listen. And the bass. It's two cellos and a double bass in the left hand. Wait. And only Brahms could add to that beauty, right? Isn't that beautiful? It's like the intermezzos. It's the same writing. So now with the cello, full piano, dolce, heavenly. Here we go. Good. Let me just say one thing. In Brahms, you have to be very precise about triplets and duplets. Because in Brahms, it's either triplets against a duplet or it's duplet against a triplet. And unless you feel them both, if you're at all vague about it, you lose that. So if you're playing duplets, think triplets. If you're playing triplets, think duplets. Try one more time, the same thing. And listen to that beauty. It's like a velvet bed to lie on, isn't it? No, play it again. I'll say play. It's like this. It's 2 against 3. Right. So it's a kind of discipline which produces love. right? Because through being disciplined, you release the love of the twos against the threes, which is the ambiguity, the complexity of Brahms's mind is so beautiful. Here we go. Yes. I think he wants ya ta 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 dee, like an arabesque for a dancer. Ya ta ta dee. So don't hold that back. But that was beautiful. I can't consult with the people in the audience, but I think they were saying, yes, that's beautiful. Once again. And now make it even more dolce. Dolce means really sweet, tender, warm. Yes, beautiful, yes. Affettuoso, really beautiful, bravo. And you're constantly helping her to be more legato, because otherwise she's stuck on those notes and she can't move. And it's such a relief, isn't it, when the cello helps you to do that, and constantly moving. So the idea is you have a tempo which is the fastest tempo you need for the movement. This is the important thing. Bum, 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 pum, pim, pum. That's the fastest tempo. And then if you want to take time, you stretch, stretch, stretch. But pull the elastic, and then when there's no need to pull it, let go, and it's back in tempo. I'd like to try one more time, because the end can be more moving if you don't make a ritardando too soon. Just at the end. Because the person who really ends the piece is the piano, not the cello. Often the cello thinks, I'm important, the piano's just an accompanist. And so you ended, a poor girl, she was sitting there saying, what do I do with my notes now? You know? All right, should we just try that? So should we just try from the dim bom, where it comes back? Yeah, there. But should we do a ritardando just before it? So now you hear the ritardando. This is, what bar is that?
62.
Oh, I don't have numbers.
Doesn't matter.
Before the, what, 5 bars?
You could go from.
Oh, do from here, and it wasn't really pianissimo. This is, yes, right. Do soft as softissimo here. You know, Menahem Pressler. When Menahem Pressler plays pianissimo, he looks like a dying fish. He goes, because it's never soft enough. So could you try be like a dying fish and just the softest sound? That's gorgeous. Let him play. Now yeah. He's going to play with. Now finish. 2, 2, yeah. Help her, because she's stuck on that note. She wants to move. And I do right from there. Do from the return, the sharp, and then move. Yes. Then he goes to Beautiful. Bravo, bravo. They're clapping. I know they're clapping. I know even if they're not doing that, they're clapping with their hearts, and some of them are crying. The tears that we shed when we hear great music beautifully played, and it's not enough to hear great music. It has to be beautifully played. If it isn't, I mean, look, what you did before, nobody can say that's not beautiful, but this is something else. And this touches the heart so deep and so irresistibly that our reaction is to cry or to feel just deep emotion. And you know, there are not, as far as I know, there's no other way of reaching people the way that music can. Because what else is there? A game of football? No, there's nothing that can. Even religion can't do it. And I don't say that authoritatively, I say that because I just thought of it at that very moment. Because what religion does, it takes you out of yourself. What music does, it takes you into yourself. Listening, it reveals everything that we have as listeners. And it's such a privilege to be a musician, because that's our job, is to pull out and enable people to remember all the experiences of their lives. So it's great. It's really beautiful. Now, was that teaching? Yes, in a way, I suppose it was. But I approach you as colleagues to remind you of things that you might have forgotten. You might even have, somebody said to me, "Thank you for reminding me why I went into music. I'd forgotten for the last 25 years. Wow, that's amazing. Amazing. I had a note pinned to my door. Alfonso, do you have that little note? Is that written there? Yeah, it's sitting right on my desk. This came day before yesterday. Pinned to the door. But a complete stranger. I have no idea who it was. He left an address, so I'm going to get in touch. He said, "Dear Benjamin Zander, my mother died recently after suffering from dementia. She had a great love of music, and before her cognition declined too much, a year or so before her death, she spent many happy hours watching your YouTube videos with young artists. Despite her illness, your music, your enthusiasm, your gift to inspire reached her heart. I wanted to thank you for that." And I say that message from this man about his mother is more valuable to me than a rave review in the New York Times. You understand? Because it tells us what we're up to. Isn't that right? It reminds, oh, that's what we're doing. So look, I have one other thing I'd love to do, which is I gave you the music of the foray. If you could just take it out. And I have a little idea here, because Peter Sheckman, who's sitting and listening, said to me, one day, because we have these events for the donors of the Boston Philharmonic, people who love the orchestra and who look after it and donate. And this is a kind of thank you. It's like a way of saying thank you for supporting us. This is what we're up to. Please come into our living room and see what's going on here. And Peter said to me, you know, most people don't understand what a conductor does. And so I thought it would be fun to do the following thing: is let's play this piece. You play it, you were playing it through earlier. It's very short, 3 minutes. It's a piece by Fauré, and it's called Après un rêve, which means after a dream. And they just settled down, the two of them, excellent musicians that they are, and they just played. So would you do that just as you did it before? And if you haven't heard this piece, you'll be amazed. I think you'll be amazed to hear that they've never played this piece before. I don't mean they've never played it together, they've never played it. And I asked them, I said, do you know Après un rêve? And he said, I think I played it years ago. And Rasa said she didn't know it. But that doesn't matter, because, as my father once said, when he was playing piano duets with Peter Weingartner, who was the son of Felix Weingartner, and they were playing a Brahms symphony which had just come out well, my father was a young fellow. Brahms's symphonies were just being produced, and they sat at the piano and played. And the mother of Peter Weingartner said, "It's amazing, you kids, you can play this music at sight. How can you do that?" And Peter said, "Oh, it's very simple. It's all written down." So good musicians with good training, a good education and fine sensibility can give a performance like that, which if you gave it in a concert would get all the appropriate applause, and rightly so, because it's very, very beautiful what you did. So I have an idea, and it's not right, and I don't know whether Fauré would agree with me, but he didn't give us a tempo. He didn't give us a metronome or nothing. He gave us andantino, and we don't know whether andantino means faster or slower. But one thing I notice is those bum, 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 bum. So what I'm going to do, and this is in answer to Peter's question, what does a conductor do? So a conductor doesn't have to say anything. He just goes like this. Yeah, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do lots of rubato, all right? So isn't it interesting? The orchestra, I mean, this is a great orchestra. This is like one of the great orchestras, but they'll do anything. But you actually have no choice. Isn't that interesting? You have no choice. The conductor can actually do whatever he or she wants, and the musicians have no choice in the matter, because if I give a, for instance, at the end, you wanted to do a ritardando, but I know that Fauré said, I hate it when they make a ritardando at the end of a piece. So I remembered what Fauré said, and I didn't allow you to do a ritardando, even if you wanted to. Isn't that interesting? All I'm doing, Peter, this is the answer to your question, all I'm doing is responding to the harmony in the music. So when you take the opening, for instance, the very first bar, nothing happens in the first bar. So why do you need time in the first bar? Just play that chord. Oh, of course it needs time, right? And so the conductor, an orchestra can't do that alone, because they all have different feelings about it. So the conductor says this, beautiful. Bravo. My teacher Casado played for Fauré when he was young, and he was so excited he wanted to hear what the great master said, and he said, "Oh, vous jouez très bien." That was what he said. I can say to you, "Vous jouez très bien." Really, très bien. And that was so true and it's so beautiful. And you notice I hardly had to do anything. With a great, this is for you, Alfonso, as a conductor, with a great orchestra, great musician, you don't have to do much. You have to be clear. She had no doubt at any moment what it was that I was suggesting you do. No doubt. But it doesn't need that. It needs absolute clear gestures and knowing how to shape the phrase, and that's what a conductor does.
Duly noted.
Great, duly noted. Beautiful. Well, look, this has been absolutely fantastic. Thank you both so much. It was beyond what I was hoping. I had high hopes for this because I thought this is such a privilege for these people listening. Such a privilege, because how could they ever have this experience if it were not coming into this living room? I mean, you can't do this in the concert hall.
It's wonderful to make music with you again.
Great, and we haven't made music for nearly 20 years, 18 years. Or no, we started 18 years ago, but it's certainly 15 years probably since we've made music together, and it's beautiful. I mean, you're so both. I mean, I think you're equally great, responsive, responsible, very artistic and imaginative, very, very amazing, because you don't do what you're told, you do what you feel when it's released. It's beautiful.